welcome to Meet the Candidates. The Frankfort Plant Board is giving us an opportunity to bring the candidates in here to the studio so that you can get a chance to know them a little bit better. And they can explain to you who they are and why they're looking for additional responsibilities here in our community. And on this wonderful, wonderful Meet the Candidates edition, we're going to be talking with Scott Tippett. As we all know, our city commission is of extreme importance to us, and there are a lot of issues that are going to be coming up now and in the coming term. So we want to hear a little bit from Scott about what he thinks about some of those issues and if he has any plans for them. And I want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that on April the 26th, we're going to be having a candidate forum, probably down at the hotel, so stay alert for the details on that. And then please put it on your calendar to stay tuned for live coverage of the election returns on May 22nd. And we hope to be coming to you live from the county clerk's office. And we'll find out the results of all of these interviews that we've been doing with our candidates. And now let's find out a whole lot more about Scott Tippett. Scott, you have had a big position within the community as one of our citizens. Tell our viewers, some of whom are actually new to the community. We forget about that sometimes, but we have people coming in who may not be familiar with you. Tell them who you are and how you function in this community and why you're willing to tackle the additional responsibilities of this.
Well, thanks, Janet. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, have a conversation. And thank the Frankfort Plant Board FPB for providing this service to the community so the community can learn more about us. I am Scott Tippett. I'm a retired teacher. Spent 27 years working in both school districts at various schools. I coached many sports. I coached basketball, head basketball coach, golf, baseball. So I was exposed to youth at a very young age. For me, I was exposed to the youth in our community. And I became concerned then as a teacher about how we make this community better for our children as they matriculate into adulthood. My wife is also a retired teacher. She taught for 30 years in the Frankfort Independent Schools. My son, Andrew, lives and works here in Franklin County as well. And many of you probably would know that I had a little sideline business. I was an upholsterer for 25 years and worked on folks' furniture, and that was sort of a hobby for me. So I could have some tactile relief, and I enjoyed doing that as well. And what I would say to most folks who don't know me, many people know me very well. Of course, many do not. Is that as a retired educator and living in the urban core, I live in South Frankfort, I became aware of the issues that confront the community, and I became involved in the South Frankfort Neighborhood Association and was elected president, and we worked on many issues pertaining to the urban core. And as I learned more about that in my position, I became interested in being, representing the entire community. And that's how I became interested in being a city commissioner. And that's how that story unfolded, and I'm presently in my first term.
And yet you're willing to tackle another term with all the responsibilities that come with that.
Yes, ma'am, I am. You want me to expound on that?
Well, what I would like is for you to go over some of the issues that we're facing now and give us your stance on it, your opinions on it, any proposals you might have for coming to a resolution of those issues.
The biggest, we have many infrastructure needs, and the most obvious is the Capitol Plaza Redevelopment project, which is just crucial and critical for the long term of our community. And we the city, have employed City Visions, a company with excellent track record in helping communities redevelop their urban core. And we just had a meeting at T-Boat Marine a couple of weeks ago where the folks in the community got to come and provide their opinion and their input about what they would like to see go in that redevelopment project. So what I think is critical, in my opinion, is finding a linchpin piece. We don't want a static plan, Janet, that's going to sit on the shelf and collect dust. That happens so often, you know that. And what the fresh approach that the City Vision teams use is we're going to go in there and find out what would be a good linchpin piece to put in there first. And then as we go along, we'll adjust a malleable plan as to how to expand on that first piece. My personal opinion is we need a mixed-use residential facility of some type in the urban core because we've not grown, you know, a population in 30 years anyway. We're stagnant. So if we have folks with feet on the ground, you know, creating demand for goods and services in the urban core, what we want is to provide a cool place that will attract young people. And they there can become investors in the community, and they can live, work, and play in Frankfort. And perhaps the most important thing is to send their children to our schools, okay? And that way you get this cycle of where we have families that are investing in our community. And then the children, when they graduate from high school, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get out of here? Their first thought is, I want to stay in Frankfort and raise my family here. So that linchpin piece of that redevelopment project is so critical. And after we decide what that is, then we can then decide what the next most important piece would be. And that could be an ongoing project for the community. And I'm excited for us with that project.
Now, as you are fully aware, there are issues that come to people that are not necessarily of a positive nature. Mm-hmm. And much as we would like for them to go away, we do need to address them and see if we can't find some resolutions to that. What is your position on, well, there are several different ones we need to touch on. One is the mayor makes appointments to various mm-hmm. boards and things. Should the city commission have oversight of that, or should that be left to the mayor exclusively?
Well, just to back up just a hair, okay? Mm-hmm. The most recent Frankfort Plant Board appointee came to us was approved through a different process than the previous person was, mm-hmm. okay? And what we decided was, the commission decided, yes, that we needed to provide more oversight to the mayor's appointments. So we came up with a vetting process, which was not in place previous to this mm-hmm. last nominee. And what we did was we came up with individual questions from the commissioners that were given to the candidate previous to an oral interview, okay? So that person would answer questions, important questions, for the community, to the commission, and then he would or she would come to the commission for an oral vetting. And that previously had not happened. The mayoral appointments just mm-hmm. sailed through, mm-hmm. and most of them were good, okay? But we felt like the commission probably needed to do a little bit better in their due diligence of oversight. So we came up with that new process, and I'm happy to say that it's worked. Mm-hmm.
So you are in favor
oh, absolutely.
Of having a little more oversight from the commission.
And what I would say is mm-hmm. that oversight, that additional oversight is already in place in that particular instance. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Now, in light of appointments and all of that, do you think there should be industry representatives on the...
Absolutely. Industry consumes 53% of our electric power. Okay, so they should have a say at it. I don't know if you can designate a seat for an industry person or not, but we should work hard to include someone with ties to industry, or at least understands how industry operates mm-hmm. and their particular set of needs. I think that's important. That's paramount importance.
One other question that's come up quite often is, should there be county representation? I know it's a city entity, but it also covers a good bit of the area that that lies
Exactly.
outside of the city limits.
And that's been changed as well. Our newest appointment is a county resident. Okay. I guess can I call him by name? Mr. Mason, our newest appointment. And what I had wanted originally in the newest appointment to the plant board was someone with some budgetary experience. And Mr. Mason was just absolutely fabulous with that. He was well credentialed, and he went through that vetting process. So we all know that the plant board's budget is $106 million. And we're directing the flow of that money. And I just thought it was imperative that we have somebody with some budgetary experience on that board, on the board of directors. And thankfully, Mr. Mason was presented to us and he passed. So what I would hope is when the next appointment becomes available, that we give strong consideration to somebody from the business sector for that position. And I'll encourage the mayor to investigate that. Now, I can't force the mayor to do that, but I can encourage him to do that. But it is his purview to appoint whom he wants, but we will vet them.
Now, one of the other things that has come up of a negative area that we really have to address is this current investigation that's going on of the Frankfurt Plant Board members. And are you in favor of that investigation? What is your stance on it? How do you think we should be proceeding with that? And do you see any way to completely resolve this issue?
Yes, it'll be resolved over time. Here's what I think. I came slowly to the idea of an investigation. And then I realized that I did not have the particular expertise to judge. I did not feel like I could remove subjectivity and bias from a decision that important as to remove a board member. And I'm not a lawyer, so I would need some help. So the Board of Commissioners came to a 4-1 vote for an investigation. Now, I'm not at liberty at this moment to discuss the investigation. We have received the report. Some folks are calling for us to release it. I am for releasing it wholly to the public. But in this interim period, it's time for the commission to read, digest, and analyze the report fully. And then this evening, we will meet on this topic and have a discussion, at which time I will suggest that we release the report to the public. It has been emotional. It has been grueling. It has been divisive. But this issue is so important to the community because so many of our folks, Janet, and I mean thousands of our folks, live on the margin, and they struggle to make their utility payment every month. It's just, they live in duress. And they're good citizens and they want to make their utility payment. They want to do it. But if we have uncertainty in the market and their utility prices are going up and down, we make it even harder for those folks. So what we need is certainty in the price. And as macroeconomics take over and renewables become more available online, come online, we will be able to transition to a more environmentally friendly portfolio. Some folks would like for that to happen quicker, okay, and they would like for us to do that now. And see, I think that opens us up to litigation and the uncertainty in the market, and those thousands of people are going, how am I going to pay my bill? So that was my concern all along. And there was, controversy, and I like to use the word brouhaha, and raw feelings.
There was that, yes.
But I think if we take a deep breath, okay, and we do this and we show the public that we're doing our due diligence, and I'm trying my best to do that, Janet, to just be an open book and allow the process to occur slowly and orderly, then this thing will in time heal. But it probably won't heal immediately, okay? But over time, and as board members' terms expire and we replace those board folks, then a new culture is developed on the Frankfurt Plant Board. So that's how it heals.
Fortunately, we're in a situation where we can move to more positive areas, some more exciting parts of your duties on the commission. The development that you were referring to earlier. Now, I know that we have, give or take, $8 million Tiger Grant.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'd like to hear your opinions about that Second Street development. But also, there's a lot more to Frankfurt than Second Street. So if you don't mind elaborating a little bit on what you might like to see happening in the contiguous downtown area and in those areas that don't fall within what we call downtown.
Right. And sometimes we are guilty of thinking of Frankfurt as the urban core only. And that's not right. I told many of my friends that when I became a commissioner, I was quickly disabused of what I thought Frankfurt was. It's expansive. And we need to include those folks in the suburbs too, because that's Frankfurt. But anyway, back to your question. Our new city manager, Ms. Steinhauser, is just a fabulous lady, and she's just a top-notch professional. And her particular skill set is finding grant money and other connections to bring ancillary monies into the community. And she and her team deserve the greatest amount of applause for what they've done in bringing that $8 million into Second Street. It's dedicated to the Second Street corridor, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But what I have been told by people who live in communities that receive these grants often is that once you get the first one, the second one comes easier. And then once folks understand that you're active and vibrant, then more grant monies will become available to you. And that's why her skill set is so particularly important to us. And I'm willing to unleash her, into that sphere to let her help us redevelop the entire area. I'll get back to Second Street in a minute, okay? She has particular expertise in riverfront development. She's from Dubuque, so she understands riverfront development, and she understands how these things tie together, and how the urban core becomes the center of the cultural life, and we attract folks in there to have a good time and to have, an elevated experience and socialize, right? But these things have to be connected, and what this opportunity gives us is 8 acres as a canvas that we can paint our own Mona Lisa. We can do it. And we have opportunities to open up the riverfront on both sides of the river, north and south of the river, So we have 2 riverfronts we can develop. So yes, while we have faced some adversity here, but the opportunity, it's just right for us. The opportunities are right for us to take that ball and run with it. I'm an old coach. Let's hand the ball. Let's give the ball to somebody who's going to shoot it and knock the basket down, right? And we have staff and Ms. Steinhauser and her ancillary folks, her team members, to do that. It's just exciting to me, Janet, what we can do with this canvas. Now back to Second Street. What that will do is that initial money, $8 million, will allow us to change the streetscape. We're going to widen the sidewalks, change the facades on some of the buildings, provide monies for improvements, provide safety things for the children in the Second Street School District who are walking back and forth across Second Street, and assist businesses to be more attractive, paving the roads, all sorts of those technical things that you really don't think about that improve the ability of the businesses and the folks to come in there and live, work, and play. So that first $8 million grant is just critical. So yes, and that's just the first step in us we would want a Tiger Grant for Home Street. And I'm sure that we will be applying for some sort of financial assistance for the Home Street area. So that ties into this. What we really want to do is improve the quality of life for everyone, in Frankfurt. And that's my job as a city commissioner. And
Well, there are some ongoing projects that need to be addressed too in any community. What do you see, given our budgetary constraints, what do you see of just maintaining infrastructure throughout the city lines as they proceed through our county?
Well, you know, what our basic strength is that we provide sewer nearly to everyone, okay? So that's one of our assets. So that allows us, and even allows the county, okay, because our sewers run into the county too, okay? It allows them to develop as well and to modernize and become more efficient. That helps bring money in. And once folks recognize the vibrancy, they're willing to invest, okay? And that would attract businesses. And that would attract folks who want to live, work, and play in Frankfort. And an aside to that is, I'm a former educator. We have 2 outstanding superintendents in our local school districts, okay? We need to allow them to be creative, okay? They can create a curriculum that is tailored to meet the needs of younger people. And if I'm a 25-year-old parent and I see Dr. Barber, Mr. Kopp designing unique curriculum like teaching Chinese to my child, I'm going to find a way to find a place to get into that district so my child can go to that school. And if my child is going to that school, that means I'm going to invest in the community, all right, because I want it to be good for my child. So I'm probably going to be a homeowner. And infrastructure problems, here's your answer. 53% of our housing stock, Janet, is rental property. And there's a reason for that, because our demographics are skewed. 23 or 4% of our community, Janet, is our demographic, okay? A little more than young, okay? Okay. And the other part of that is our demographic controls most of the wealth, okay? So most of the wealth lies in that 23 and 24%, okay? So what we need to do is create an economy that generates demand for goods and services, that generates more revenue and more tax receipts and more occupational tax and more revenue into the community that can be shared, okay? Now, those of us who benefited from living in Frankfort, and I'm one of them, and I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to spend my life in Frankfort. We got to give something back. My family has benefited from it financially. We've lived well. So we need to provide that opportunity for younger people. And if you want to know why I'm running for the city commission and why I want the second term, that's it.
Now, these things do not just automatically happen because somebody had a good idea about it and decided that we wanted it. Mm-hmm. We have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about budgetary constraints and impact on our local budget. We have pension problems that are going to have a very heavy impact indeed. What do you see happening with that, and are we prepared for it? How do we compensate for that? Are we going to have to raise our taxes? I guess it'd be your overview of how you things are going to be able to be managed, and if you have any proposals for it, we'd like to hear it.
We will know very quickly as to whether or not what our exposure to the new pension liability is. It could be as much as $2.3 million, okay, which will reduce our reserves from $15 to $12 million. Now, the city is financially strong. We're in a strong financial position, okay? And we have an excellent finance director, Mr. Dawson, okay, who does a very good job of keeping the funds in the proper places. But we are in a strong financial position. I don't see, we're at 195 occupational tax, and I don't see any need for us to raise that because we have a unique a unique situation in the capital city is that many, I forget what the number is, but somewhere between 10 and 12,000 folks commute into just the city, okay? So they're coming from Lawrenceburg and Shelbyville and Lexington to work in Frankfort, and they're giving us $195 of their salary. Now, what I'd like to see them do is for us to convince those folks to live in Frankfort. You know, you're giving us $195 of your salary, you know, why would you drive from Shelbyville or Lawrenceburg? Because, and what we can do to attract those folks is to provide such a high quality of life that they want to be here. And again, as an old educator, I know how important the school districts are into making that sale to younger people because they want to have a good education for their children.
Look into this camera over here and tell our viewers why you are the best candidate to fill that position on the City Commission and why they should vote for you.
Well, I still have some of my youth. I'm not quite 60. I'm fully retired. And I have been a full-time commissioner, essentially. Some of the other commissioners, and I mean, that's not a knock on them, they have to go to a full-time job. And what I would say is, Janet, is I have a deep and abiding affection for this community. And through 60 years experience, nearly all of which was in Frankfort, and through a teaching career where I worked in various schools with thousands of students, and many of them are still here in Frankfort. They know me. They feel like they can call me, and many of them do, and say, and they call me, you know, Tip. I was Coach Tip when I was in. They said, you know, I've got a problem with some drainage here. You know, can you help me? Well, of course I can. You know, so I'm there. I'm available. You know, and what I would also say is I have some talent. I'm not the smartest, you know, guy, but I'm pretty smart. And my people skills, I think, are my biggest asset. I'm able to network. You know, I'm able to stay positive 95% of the time and work with folks. And so what you would get with me is someone who cares deeply about the community. You would also get someone with some experience, and you would get someone who would be able to work nearly full time.
We want to thank Scott Tippett for coming in and talking to us and allowing us to meet the candidate. Make sure you come back here for more editions of Meet the Candidates.